The idea of taking someone else's recorded music, cutting it up, and making it your own goes back a long way. In the 1950s, Dickie Goodman began to make a string of novelty hits. He took bits of songs, often ones that had started to climb the charts, and with a grease pencil and a razor blade, marked them, cut them, and gave them new meaning. John Goodman has this appreciation of the king of novelty.
We interrupt this record to bring you a special bulletin. The reports of a flying saucer hovering over the city have been confirmed. The flying saucers are real.
Real when I feel what my heart can't conceive.
Most thought atomic bomb testing was what brought the flying saucers here in 1956, but Dickie Goodman had an idea of what they were really here for: rock and roll.
Pardon me, madam. Would you tell our audience what would you do if the saucer were to land? Duck back in the air! Thank you. And now the thin gentleman there.
What I'm gonna do is hard to tell.
The gentleman with the guitar. What would you do, sir?
Just take a walk down the street.
Thank you.
That was Dickie Goodman. He was 21 at the time, just a guy from Brooklyn who loved music. You got to understand what was going on. The government was fighting the Cold War. Hollywood was pumping out science fiction movies. People thought they were seeing UFOs, and all the while, Elvis Presley and Little Richard were sneaking up on America.
This is John Cameron on the spot. And now I believe we're about to hear the words of the first spaceman ever to land on Earth.
Dickie Goodman used pieces of songs to describe what people were buzzing about. He didn't know this was the dawn of sampling. He didn't even have a record. He just took this tape to Alan Freed, who played it on Wynn's Radio in New York. By the time it got to Roulette Records, everybody in town was talking about the flying saucer. The overnight hit caused Time magazine to call it the greatest sampler of all. They said if you're not on Saucer, you're nowhere.
The flying saucer has gone. There is no threat of an invasion. However, the flying saucers are still around.
Dickie Goodman was sued by 17 labels for copyright infringement. So the controversy about using other people's songs to make your own hit was the new talk. And this was the 50s. Anybody else would have been terrified. I mean, the FBI investigates copyright infringement, but Dickie Goodman responded with another hit record just to make fun of the whole thing.
Is the district attorney ready? I'm ready. I'm ready. Call the first witness. And what is your name?
They often call me Speedo, but my real name is Mister.
What is your complaint against Buchanan and Goodman?
They wouldn't give me a ride in their flying saucer.
The case went all the way to New York Supreme Court. After hearing the record, the judge ruled Dickie could use the samples as long as he paid for them. This set a precedent for music sampling into the 90s.
We return you now to the courtroom where the judge is saying to the jury, and the jury is saying to the judge,
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yeah. Yeah.
We find them not guilty.
Dickie continued with so many charted hits that he's in the Guinness Book of World Records. Whether we needed a hero in the 60s...
Batman, speak to me!
I can't make it without you.
Or an anti-hero in the 70s.
Just arriving is oceanographer Matt Hooper. Sir, if someone is attacked by a shark, what should they do? We are going aboard the fishing boat of Captain Quint. Captain, will you be able to catch this giant shark?
I will.
Thank you, Captain. Captain.
Mr. Jaws was based on Spielberg's movie Jaws and won a gold record in 1975. Dickie Goodman had comic relief on whatever people were talking about, from entertainment to politics.
Mr. President, have you any statement regarding Watergate? How would you describe the Watergate incident? Mr. President, what were you doing at the time the incident took place? And how do you feel about it now?
Here I am, stuck in the middle.
Mr. President, what will your position be from now on?
No more, Mr. Nice Guy.
These novelty records became American time capsules, but by the 1980s fell behind on the charts.
E.T., your neck grows and your chest lights up. How come you look so strange? And how does it it feel when your chest lights up?
It hurts so good.
One last question. What do extraterrestrials really want here?
That may have been Dickie's last chance. If Hey E.T. had been a hit, maybe it would have led to a record deal with one of the big companies. Maybe airplay would have continued on the radio. Maybe Dickie Goodman would have made his first music video. But changes in the industry were the only thing coming his way. By the time CDs were being introduced, the king of novelty was unable to reinvent himself. In 1989, Dickie Goodman was alone, out of work, and very depressed, and he committed suicide. He was 55 years old. He was my father. My pop culture burden is to perpetuate his legacy. So rather than getting stuck on how he died, I play Dad's records for the world and think about how he lived. I truly believe that if he had just hung in there a couple more years, he would have made a comeback. There's cable, satellite, even internet radio, and independent record labels. Music videos are common and everybody's got a CD out. His records are about fun and his story is about hope. It's a lesson to embrace the laughter and, above all, never give up, because you don't know what the future has in store.
John Goodman is the author of The King of Novelty, a biography of Dickie Goodman. John Goodman's new CD, 25 all-time novelty hits, is dedicated to his father's memory.
So, I guess you're just going to do these things until you're 6 foot under, huh?
That's about it, right? That's it, you know. I mean, it's funny, you know. I mean, it's like my son. My son is 12, and he says to me, he says, Daddy, he says, you know, he says, years later, he says, I'll be making those records like you.
Oh, that'd be a trip.
Wow.
What do you call that weird way you walk? Their leader is carrying something. Mr. Alien, what do you have there? Agent Mulder has something important to say to Agent Scully. Uh-oh, Scully is being taken on board the spacecraft. Agent Scully, do you have any parting words for Agent Mulder? Thank you, Agent Scully. Thank you, Agent Scully. Agent Scully.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.